Just discussed ad fatigue, and this will be a key component of something that you want to keep an eye on when you're scaling your ads. And let's now talk about what scaling might actually look like for you specifically and what else to keep an eye on when you're doing this. There are two main ways that you can scale your success. One is to slowly increase the daily budget of your best performing campaigns or ad sets. And two, it's also possible for you to just duplicate your best performing ad sets and the ads within them and give it a brand new budget. If you need to scale something quickly because let's say you're advertising for a product that's about to launch in 10 days, so you don't have the time to increase your ad budget slowly, you can duplicate your ad set or your campaign if you're using campaign budget optimization and then set your new desired budget that way. But keep in mind that this doesn't work if your audience size is too small. As an example, let's say everything is performing really well for you at $20 a day for an ad set with an audience size of 100,000 people. Well, if all of a sudden you want to pump that to $1,000 a day into that same audience, you can pretty much expect to start seeing some pretty varied results there because your frequency is going to jump up really high. And that's just because your audience size isn't big enough to handle this kind of daily budget. So in this case, you would want to make sure that you're adding your budget incrementally and watch some key stats that will help you to really see that your campaign is still really healthy even with the increased budget. Or you might also need to consider exploring adding additional audiences to your campaign so you can split that budget between different audiences so none of them are really getting this massive boost. Or you can take that budget and put it into a totally new campaign targeted at getting repeat business from existing customers instead of trying to attract new customers, for example. So there are a lot of different things for you to try, even if you have a really small audience, in a way that doesn't really require you to just look at your existing campaigns that are performing well for you and trying to increase that budget. If you do have the budget to play with, maybe think creatively about how to allocate it in a way that's going to make the most sense for your business with an audience size that's quite small. So let's say you've tested out your audiences and the ads within them, and you know pretty confidently that for about every dollar you put into this, you get about $2 back or $6 back or whatever your actual results are. And you want to go ahead and amplify this, which is awesome. It's a great spot to be in. But again, your return on ad spend is one of those kind of funny metrics that people throw around when in reality, everything is really proportionate to your ad spend. A return on ad spend of 6 with 5 customers at $100 a sale means that for the $83 you put into your ads, you've made $500. But a return on ad spend of 2 with 500 customers at $100 a sale means that for the 25 grand you put into your ads, you made 50 grand in revenue. So technically the second example means that you have a much less effective return on your ad spend, but I know which one of these results I would rather prefer. So it's important to note that return on ad spend as a metric isn't the be all and end all. It all has to be taken into perspective. So don't get too discouraged if your results aren't as effective once you start to scale your campaigns. This is super natural because Facebook's goal initially is to get you as many of the results you're looking for as quickly and cheaply as possible. But as you start to put a little bit more budget behind your campaigns, Facebook is naturally going to have to move on from those quick, cheap wins to people who are a little bit harder for them to get, that are going to cost a little bit more money because those quick wins have already been converted from within your audience. If you're following a similar ad sequence to the connect, commit, and close approach we discussed earlier, then you want to make sure that you're scaling at all of these different levels, not just one. And you want to scale your budget slowly. So I would recommend between 10 and 20% every 4 to 7 days as a rough guide. And as you're scaling, just make sure you're keeping an eye on any changes in frequency, your CPM, your CTR, CPC, and relevance, and any other key metrics to detect any changes in performance as you're scaling. And also make sure that you are noting down any key dates for when you're making these changes and your stats before the change so that you have a baseline to compare to when you come back a week later to see how it's all performing. And that's especially key if you have multiple people working within one ad account. If the ads you're running don't follow this kind of multi-step approach like this connect, commit, and close, but maybe you're running a conversion campaign straight to your cold audience and it's working really well for you and you have a couple of really good cold ad sets that you've tested out, then you can simply go through and duplicate the ad sets and the ads within them to a new conversion campaign that has a budget set at the campaign level. This is going to help Facebook to push your budget out to your best performing ad set. And then once that ad set starts to slow down and get a bit more expensive, Facebook is going to then have your other ad sets within that particular campaign to select from and put more budget behind as you scale.